Hello everybody, this is Maya Zahira with Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and we are now starting our Facebook Live with within the Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group. So welcome everybody, and good to see you all. I actually started just a couple minutes late, sorry about that. My car was at the mechanic today, and so I was getting back home and getting back in work mode. So, excuse me. So today's topic is super interesting. We're actually going to cover two things. First, we're going to go back and kind of wrap up some information about how to deal with OCD thought loops that are coming from psychic attack. And then we're actually going to dive a lot deeper into how to protect yourself from psychotronic warfare, from psychotronic weapons. So I'm thinking that a lot of you may not have heard of this kind of thing before. But when I was covering OCD thought loops 2 months ago in our Facebook Live, and I happened to mention some information about that negative OCD thought loops can be caused by psychotronic, like from electronic devices and that sort of thing. That's one of the causes. People were really interested, and there were a lot of people that had questions about that. So it's actually kind of a good thing that our Facebook Live got cut off, because that means I'm going to continue and go even deeper into that aspect. So welcome everybody. Be sure to, let me make sure I'm seeing comments and everything. Be sure to say hello and tell us where you're joining from as you join. And I live right by a dirt road, and my neighbors are coming out with their motorcycles, so you might hear a little bit of that. It's actually really peaceful out here. It's a beautiful spring day. And before we get into our topic, I'm just going to do my real quick little blurb, especially for those of you who are new to me and to my offerings. I actually have a lot of free stuff out there, and I've done that intentionally. I want to make sure that everybody, no matter what your financial situation is, can everybody can get some help, or at least get started on some initial steps. Excuse me. So there's a lot of free stuff out there. The first place that you can get some free support and information is on my YouTube channel. So if you go to youtube.com and then search for Psychic Protection Sanctuary, then you will find my channel, and please subscribe to that. And if you're watching on YouTube, then hello YouTube subscribers. I love you guys. And then you can also go onto my website, www.psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, and on there, if you subscribe to the email, then you get sent actually not one free gift, but like an email that has a bunch of free gifts in it, that pretty much covers the whole spectrum of whether you're having a severe spiritual warfare kind of issue, or you're just really wanting to get better at managing your energy. So there's like a little grab bag of gifts that I email you. So if you're not already signed up for my email, go there and do that. And then I also have a Facebook group that is specifically for supporting people who are experiencing spiritual warfare kinds of issues, the more serious kind of stuff. And even if you're not experiencing anything really major, it's really helpful to understand what's what, so that you can avoid any really severe situations. And so you can find that on Facebook, facebook.com, put in the search bar Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and you want to choose the group. There's also a page, which is just like your standard business page. You can go there and follow me on that. But if you want the more interactive group, that's a support group, you can join that. And you do need to answer the 3 questions because it is we've really cultivated a safe space. So if someone doesn't take the time to answer the questions, I just delete their request. So just heads up, if you, I'll make sure that you have like a real profile and not like a picture of an eye or something like that. Like you have to have a normal profile and you have to answer the 3 questions, and that's just to filter out any weird energy. So I'm very protective of all the wonderful people in that support group. So there's a lot of free support for you. And Rose is joining us from San Antonio, Texas. Hello, Rose. And I know there's more of you here, so don't be shy. Go ahead and say hello. Excuse me. Go ahead and say hello and share with us where you're joining from. And before I jump into our really, really fascinating topic for today, just one little final blurb, and that's that I do have a 12-month program that is very comprehensive, that teaches you all sorts of things from managing your energy and the basics of psychic protection to how to develop your intuitive/psychic gifts, so that you'll be able to discern what's what, how to manage your energy, how to do energy work on yourself and your loved ones, and I mean so much more. It's very, very comprehensive, and you can find that on my website. It's spiritual. The program is called Spiritual Empowerment Academy, and if you go to my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, it's under the events and classes right now. So Corey, so good to see you. Let us know where you're joining from, because not everybody knows everybody. So and I see that I think Holly is here too. She's joining from Lawrence, probably. All right, so thankfully I had some very well thought out notes written out last week. I really got very clear on exactly what I wanted to cover. That's perfect, because I didn't know that my automobile was going to need repairs. So my normal office day, normally I would have done that today. So it's good that I worked ahead and did this last week, because otherwise I would not have been prepared for today. And Corey is joining us from Barrington, Kansas. All right, you guys, so let's dive into this topic. I think you're going to find this really interesting. And because there's a little bit of a delay when you type things, or when you post something, if you are thinking of any questions at all as I go, submit them right away. Don't be shy, and I'll make sure to answer your questions. Okay, so our topic for today is all about psychotronic weapons. And I'm not talking about guns. I'm talking about electronic devices that are used for psychic attack. And you may or may not have heard of this before. And if you haven't, your mind is going to be blown because this stuff is happening. It's just wild. Before I jump into that, though, if you have not watched my video from 2 months ago, which was all about OCD thought loops, negative OCD thought loops caused by psychic attack. That's on my YouTube channel, Psychic Protection Sanctuary. Go back in my Psychic Protection playlist. It's just a couple of videos back. And you'll want to watch that, because I break down what OCD thought loops are and how that works. So they are negative ideas, like negative beliefs, it can be of like self-harm, thoughts of self-harm. It can be just beliefs or energies of depression and that you're all alone. And have you ever caught yourself when you've just been like in this whole like downward spiral negative thinking loop, where you're like, oh, no one loves me and my life sucks, and like this is bad and that's bad and no one's ever gonna love me and blah blah blah, whatever your sentences are, right? everybody has different sentences because we all have our own little triggers. Those are OCD thought loops. It can also be feelings like depression, anxiety, and you might already have a tendency to those thoughts or those feelings, but what's actually happening is that an outside source is recognizing that you already have an issue with that thought pattern or that feeling, that chronic feeling state, depression, anxiety, or whatever. And so that outside source, whether it's an entity or a person that's working a psychotronic electronic device, they recognize that pattern within you, and then they will send energy your way. Think of it as a psychic attack that's intentional, and it stirs up what's already been there within you a little bit, but this like multiplies it times 10 or times 100. Okay, so it's not all coming from you. So just know that if you've had issues, or you suspect that you've had issues with psychic attack, with spiritual warfare, with outside sources sending negative energy to you, just recognize that there may be times when you are in a negative thought state or a negative feeling state when you've assumed that those thoughts or feelings were 100% coming from you, from within you, but they weren't. They were coming from an outside source, or at least mostly. Okay, so that's mind-blowing to realize that. So that's what the OCD thought loops video is all about, where I'm talking about how that works. I'm not going to repeat all of that. But in the video, I talk about where some of those OCD thought loops can come from. And again, one of those places that they can come from is from electronic devices that are intentionally used to target certain individuals and stir up their stuff. So let's backtrack though, away from the psychotronic devices for just a moment. And I think where I got caught off in the OCD thought loops video, I'm just laughing right now. A lot of us were laughing because I started to talk about, I'm crossing my fingers. I don't think this is going to happen today. When I was doing the OCD thought loops video, it was a Facebook Live, and I started to talk about how there can be electronic interference, like psychic attack being sent to you from an outside source can, rather than an electronic device being used to psychically attack you, psychic attack can affect your devices where your device can shut down or can start to act weird. And that's exactly what happened. It was so funny. So our Facebook Live got cut off. And so, and I'm just going to say, I posted about this in the Facebook group, but not everybody got it, or maybe you forgot. When your electronic devices are being messed with, I want to make sure we don't get confused. Like electronic device being used as a weapon, and then there's your devices that can be messed with. Okay, so right now I'm talking about if your device is being messed with, if like all of a sudden you're like you feel like there's weird stuff going on in your house, and you feel like there's some weird entity there or something's happening, and then all of a sudden your computer shuts off and you get what people jokingly call the blue screen of death, when your computer goes blue screen and you're like, oh no, and then shuts off all of a sudden. Sometimes that can be what I call negative interference. My phrase for like anytime there's a person sending psychic attack or an entity or whatever, I call that negative interference. So anyway, so when that happened with my phone, when I was doing the Facebook Live, and the Facebook Live got shut down, I had this thought. I thought, I could go a couple different places in my mind with this. I could get into fear. I could be like, oh no, apparently there's something messing with my device. There's something trying to interfere with what we're doing, and that's really bad. But I know I'm smarter now. Like that stuff is still out there, right? But a lot of it is just smoke and mirrors, or like it's not even really that powerful. So this little thing that's not very powerful, it's not a big deal. It's just like messing up my little Facebook Live, throwing a little jolt into the Facebook Live video, just to activate fear. And then once the fear is activated, then that shifts your energy and makes you more vulnerable to psychic attack more. And then the next wave comes. So something like that, like the Facebook Live getting shut off or some other electronic malfunction, a lot of times there's not really any big power behind it. It's just a being that's not really that powerful, but wants to do something to activate fear within you. And if you get into fear activated mode, then you're more vulnerable, and then that allows the next wave to come. So I had this thought like, oh, I could go into fear, but that actually gives them more power. So I was like, haha, wasn't that funny? So a lot of times when you just use humor with it, especially with the more minor situations, then that de-escalates anything that could have gotten worse. So, excuse me. It's allergy season. It's getting into it. So that's one area where my mind could have gone to with that scenario. And the other area that my mind could have gone to is like, I could have like beat myself up mentally. I could have been like, oh, here I am. I'm teaching about protection and this thing happened. But I didn't let myself go there either, because the thing is you guys, there is shit everywhere. Like you can't get away from it. It's like, yes, our world is beautiful. I mean, look, I live on the Kansas prairie. It's gorgeous here. But vibrationally, spiritually, it's like we're in a toxic waste lake. Okay. Excuse me. And I mean, it's just normal for some of us, if there's something that's going to try to happen, it will. So that's just normal. And learning to manage that is important. So that's a little bit about that previous video. And there's one more thing that I'm going to say. I think that this is where I got cut off in the last video. And it was what to do about it. When you're experiencing OCD thought loops, what do you do about it? So when you're experiencing all these negative thought patterns or negative feelings, and you're pretty sure it's not even coming from you. So there's 3 things. So get your pen and paper. Number 1, you want to develop self-awareness. Develop self-awareness. And by doing that, you'll be self-aware enough that you can be like, oh, are these my feelings? Or no, these are not actually my feelings. It feels like this is coming from somewhere outside of me. And so if you're totally cut off from your emotions and you're just like not connected to yourself at all, it's going to be easier. Excuse me. It's going to be easier. Well, you'll just be more vulnerable to this kind of scenario. So taking time to get in touch with your feelings and your thoughts and checking in with yourself several times a day would be beneficial. Step number 2 on what to do about it is to, and I kind of alluded to this already, step number 2 is recognize what is yours and what's not. And then if it's not yours, you can say out loud, that's a lie. So you're going to recognize, oh, this is not mine. This thought loop that I'm having, it's not even coming from me. And so you make a statement out loud, that's a lie. And that shuts it down. Okay. You can say more. You can be like, hey, shut up. You could say, to whatever you think might be sending that energy your way. You can send a message, hey, shut the hell up. I'm not interested in what you have to say. Or whatever. But a real short version is to say, that's a lie. Okay. And then number 3, you want to do something to snap out of it, to snap out of that feeling or thought loop state. You can go on a brisk walk, go spend some time in nature, deep breathing, exercise, meditation, go to a movie with a friend, go to a funny movie, just like get yourself out of that energy that you're in. I noticed this past winter when I was in my house a lot. I remember one day I was doing my dishes at my sink. I might have talked about this in the other video, but I was doing my dishes at my sink, and I realized all of a sudden that some negative OCD thought loops were coming my way. And it was like being blasted into my head. It was like all this stuff about how you're all alone and you don't have any support. It was this whole like blah, blah, blah. And I was, all of a sudden I snapped out of it. I was like, whoa. And I said out loud, I said, that's a lie. And I was like, wow, that's so, you know, it's just mind blowing. And I took a moment and I tuned in. I was like, yeah, there was something, I don't know exactly what it was. It was a negative, entity that seemed male, and it was blasting that energy to me. I'm like, that's a lie. Shut the hell up. and then it stopped. But imagine if I hadn't recognized that, and I would have gone, you know, just like most people, I would have gone, you know, days and days just feeling like super depressed and bummed out and believing those thoughts. You know, if they're in your head and they're in your voice and they sound like normal thoughts, you think that they're yours. So again, that is mind-blowing when you realize that some of the thoughts in your head are not yours. They're coming from outside sources. Okay. That is especially the case if you are someone who happens to be vulnerable to psychic attack, or you have been a targeted individual for that type of thing. Light workers, you know, people who have a lot of light, who are here to do important work on the planet, whether you know it or not, are often targeted individuals. So it doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong. It doesn't mean that you're like attracting it to you through the law of attraction. It's not that at all. It's that some people are targeted individuals because they are here to bring a lot of light onto the planet. And so, you know, it's interference. It's negative interference to keep you from your mission, in a nutshell. So, all right. So Corey says, as a Scorpio, I can feel when I'm going down the rabbit hole. Yeah. It looks like a hole for me too. I get this image like where I'm getting sucked down this like tornado or something. Yeah. And Jeannie, you found us. Yay. All right. So, excuse me. It is gorgeous weather out here on the Kansas prairie. I am so happy today, even though I spent most of the day at the mechanic trying to get my car fixed. That's a long story. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole and explain that, but I do have my car back. And it's a beautiful day. It's finally warm. And you guys, I know a lot of people in the Midwest had a really tough winter. It was really dark and really cold, more than usual. Or maybe we just had milder winters for a while and we got spoiled. But it's sunny. It's wonderful. All right. Now, let's look at protection against psychotronics. Psychotronics. That is the fancy word. I'm just looking at a message that just popped up. That is the fancy word. Psychotronics, or psychotronic, is the fancy word for electronic devices used intentionally against living beings. So I'm going to spell it for you so that, because I know some of you are going to want to Google this and read more. This is not just a conspiracy theory, by the way, you guys. This stuff actually exists. And that's a whole rabbit hole right there. Big sigh. Big sigh. That's a whole rabbit hole. It does exist. And, you know, so I'm going to spell it for you so that you can Google it if you want to. I'm going to look at my paper so I don't get lost because it's a long word. Psychotronics. Psychotronics. So it's a fancy word for spiritual warfare, or energetic warfare would probably be the better term in this case. Energetic warfare via electronic devices. So I looked up, I actually got a definition that I think really encapsulates it even better than I do. It's very to the point. So, quote, this is from actually a petition that I found on change.org. The petition is, it's an expired petition. I don't know from how, it's from a couple of years ago. I think it was from 2 years ago, something like that. So it's no longer an active petition, but that's, it's crazy because this stuff, it's not just an idea that's in some like delusional person's mind who's living out in the middle of the desert with a tinfoil hat. I mean, this is prevalent enough that there was a petition to stop this this technology from being created and used. All right, so quote from the petition on change.org. Psychotronic weapons can cause a person to hear words in their head, cause mental and physical illness, or even end his or her life. That is a statement on change.org, a petition against the use of psychotronics on people. Okay. There's a particular kind of technology. Let's see. There's a particular kind of technology called voice to skull. That's a creepy name. Voice to skull. Voice to T-O skull head. And the short vernacular for that is V2K. You might find that if you do a Google search. It's a microwave audio effect, also called synthetic telepathy or voice to skull. And it's effectively a piece of technology that sends energy into a person's skull, sending thoughts. And again, notice that in the definition, the technology not only may be used to affect a person's thoughts, but also can be programmed to create ill health. And so there are people who are experiencing this kind of energetic warfare who are very ill because they are under attack. Okay. So that's kind of creepy and scary and kind of, like I said earlier, mind-blowing. So let's talk about some different, I think, did I write down a website? Okay, there's, I was doing some research because I've been aware of this kind of issue for a while now, but I'm also aware that there are a lot of different kinds of psychotronic, different types of psychotronic equipment, and I haven't personally experienced all of them. And so I did some online research, since I know there are many different experiences that people have had, and I have had numerous clients who've had different kinds of situations. So I personally believe, and I can't prove this, I personally believe that I've experienced psychotronic warfare that has had an effect on my thinking at times, like I said, when I was at the kitchen sink and I had that recognition. I believe that's happened numerous times, and also having an effect on my health. So I've never said that on a video before, but yeah, I think that's been happening. But there are other clients that I've worked with who have, they were being blasted by EMFs that were freaking out their system. Microwaves, there are people that are being blasted by microwaves from a distance. There's crazy stories about, if someone's a targeted individual, then a neighbor will move in the apartment below them or above them. And I mean, again, it sounds like wackadoodle stuff, like that someone who lives out in the middle of the desert with a tinfoil, who wears a tinfoil hat, believes in this stuff. But I'm telling you guys that since I started specifically working in the area of spiritual warfare and helping people in that area, what started to happen is I was attracting all sorts of different people, not just people who were experiencing demonic attack or spirit attachment or haunting in their house, or sleep paralysis and things like that, but also people who were under attack by psychotronic weapons. Okay. And there's, like I said, there's a variety of reasons why a person might be a targeted individual, but in my observation, the main reason is that they are a light worker, and my definition of light worker is somebody who has a lot of spiritual light and is here to do important work on the planet, whether they realize it or not. And also people who are very gifted psychically or spiritually can tend to be targeted. So whether it's targeted via spiritual warfare or energetic, psychotronic kinds of things, that's a whole rabbit hole. So in some of my research, I found a website called, okay, it's actually a long website, so I'm going to just read it to you. The word freedom, the letter F as in Frank, C as in car, H as in Harry, S as in Sam. So freedom, FCHS dot starlogic, one word, STARLOGIC.com. Okay. It's not the prettiest website, and it looks like there's like some stuff missing off of it, but it looked like someone had put a lot of work into collecting input from a variety of people who had experienced these kinds of things. So from that website, leather can assist if someone is experiencing microwave kinds of attacks. Now, I haven't personally experienced that. Chances are you haven't, but I've had some clients who have had that issue. So wearing leather can help to alleviate that. Also, this sounds crazy, but like a spray bottle, spraying your skin, it can help with the heat of the microwave attacks. Rubber, wearing rubber gloves, wearing rubber shoes. If the psychotronic attack is focusing, it's more of electronic, like electrocution kind of attack. Swim cap, rubber shoes, rubber gloves, that sort of thing. Some people are experiencing psychotronic warfare that's using lasers. Again, that sounds weird, but mirrors can help with that. So you actually face the mirror, like you can put a mirror under your bed facing down if you suspect that you've got a downstairs neighbor that's doing some weird stuff at you. You put a big mirror under the bed, facing away, right? And you can also stand up some mirrors. Okay. There's also something called a Faraday cage. And if you don't know what that is, then you can look it up. I'll describe it for you as well. It's F as in Frank, Faraday, Faraday cage, or also called a shielded room. And this is an enclosure that offers some people, I'm just going to read what I have. It's an enclosure that offers some people long-term effects when all other options have been exhausted. So if you are one of the people that has contacted me with these kinds of really unusual circumstances, you might have to create a room where you can have some relief. And I'm not going to go into how to create a Faraday cage, but or a shielded room, but it's basically aluminum wire mesh. You're creating an enclosure of aluminum wire mesh. Aluminum wire mesh actually diverts EMF waves, and you create this mesh cage or aluminum mesh room, and then there's a grounding wire that comes down from that. So aluminum wire mesh diverts EMF waves to a grounding wire, which then harmlessly deposits the attacking waves into the earth. Okay. For some people where they're hearing these negative thoughts that are coming in via these psychotronic devices, some people earbuds. And what I was reading on that website, freedomfch.starlogic.com, is that one person said that what worked best for them were not just any old earbuds, but like the kind that mold and squish into your ear so that there's no opening at all. It's interesting that some people suggested that, because to me, I have never felt like it was coming in through sound in my ear. It felt like it was energetically like coming at my head, like as a telepathic message. What you'll find if you happen to go to that website that I suggested, all sorts of people who had various different kinds of issues had like so many different suggestions, because they were desperate and they were like trying this and trying that and trying this and trying that. And so they there's all sorts of different ideas on there. So if you're having an issue, and I know not all of you are, but like maybe 1 in 100 of the people that contact me are having these issues. So you might try going to that website, freedomfchs.starlogic.com, and also do some other research on Google. But I found that it looked like there were a lot of different ideas on there. Now, for the rest of us that are not having like severe issues where we're being blasted and have to like hide out in a secret room. And unfortunately, there are people that are in that scenario. That sucks really bad. So I'm going to go over some things for the rest of us that are not experiencing anything that severe. Just know that even if you don't feel like you're experiencing anything severe, if you have had issues with psychic attacks, spiritual warfare, then you may find that you're more vulnerable, upon some consideration. You may find that you are a little bit more vulnerable to psychotronic warfare than you realized, or you may have been experiencing some of these things as far as like OCD thought loops and having negative feelings that are not your own, that are being sent to you from outside sources. That's really, really common. Okay, so I'm going to go through my list. Grab your pen and paper if you haven't already. Hey everybody, we've had some new people join, so tell us where you are joining from. And again, our topic is different today. We're talking about energetic warfare via psychotronic weapons. So, very interesting topic. Very interesting, and hopefully none of you are actually experiencing that, because it is no fun. But again, if you've been vulnerable to spiritual warfare, there's probably some level of this that's happening. So there are some things that you can do. I'm going to go through my list right now. There's some things that you can do to help lessen the effects and to strengthen your energy. And even with this list for the more mild kinds of issues, you might find, I know that each of you will find that one thing works better than another. Everybody's unique, okay? So the first thing on my list, and I want you to write, take notes. I was a teacher 20 plus years ago, you guys, or a school teacher. I'm still a teacher. I'm teaching you right now, but I love having people take notes. So you guys take notes right now. This is a really good list. Okay. So number 1 tip, wear protective jewelry. Now there's protective jewelry when it comes to spiritual protection. You might reach for a certain kind of jewelry, but for psychotronics, you might be reaching for something different. So for spiritual protection, you might reach for like a cross or a pentacle or whatever is aligned with your tradition. Like I wear an angel, and I wear Mother Mary, and I wear Archangel Michael. But for electronic warfare, and for all the other things, for EMFs and all of that, I wear, I've got this piece of jewelry. I don't know if you guys can see it. Mine happens to be blue, but they sell all different colors. This is actually, I think you can Google it, bioenergetic jewelry. I think that's what she calls it, bioenergetic jewelry. But there are also other brands. If you go on Amazon, you'll find, if you type in like EMF protection jewelry, you'll find some different things. And honestly, some of it is a scam and some of it is authentic. So you'll have to do your due diligence. Hi, Melissa from Kansas City, and Tana from Independence, Missouri, and Tina from Kansas City, Missouri. Good to see you guys. So protective jewelry, that is, I would go for something that says that it protects against EMFs, because then you know it's not just spiritual protection. Like this protects spiritually and EMFs and energies, and it has helped me a lot in strengthening my energy field, because I was having a lot of trouble with that, and I needed like a little like splint or a crutch to kind of help hold things in place while I rebuilt my strength. And that's not a bad thing. It can be helpful to have that assistance until you can get your bearings again. So protective jewelry. I recommend a necklace rather than a ring or a bracelet, because it tends to permeate your aura more than something in your ear or on your finger. Orgone or orgonite is second on the list. Orgone. And here's an example of mine. This one happens to be shaped in a pyramid, but it doesn't have to be. And it doesn't have to be black. But orgone is, it's actually a resin. So it's actually like, I don't know, it's a little bit smooth. It's a resin with different shards of gemstones inside, and it is specifically made for protection. So you can go on Amazon and type in Orgone, orgone or orgonite. It seems like, I think it's more often spelled orgone. They also have pendants, necklaces, etc. And some of them say that they are for protection. Some of them say that they're for balancing. And again, it's usually a different combination of various gemstones, metals, and etc. And different companies make them differently. And I have 2 of these in my healing space to help clear out any negative energies. You might feel drawn to that, you might not, but you can do some research on it and see if it helps you. Hey, Sahela, good to see you. Another thing that can help a lot with this kind of situation is a salt bath. And it equally is helpful with spiritual warfare issues. So a salt bath literally cleanses your auric field and moves out any of those negative energies. So it is very helpful. Also, common sense, a healthy diet. because the more malnourished and the more the more that you're eating junk food, just the more it weakens your body. And anytime your body is weakened, then your body isn't able to ward off some of those issues, spiritual warfare and energetic warfare. So you want to reduce your sugar, reduce your alcohol, reduce your junk food, and that will help you with protection overall. Getting plenty of rest. So again, just like with the healthy diet, if you are not getting enough rest, it is depleting your physical body and your energy body, and it makes you, and you'll notice that your mood isn't as good when you're exhausted. And so that's that, you're in a weakened state. It's much easier for any kind of attack to have an effect on you, and you're much more resilient when you're getting plenty of rest and keeping a balanced lifestyle and having a balanced diet. Meditation as well is another recommendation to help you deal with psychotronics or spiritual warfare, either way. And when I say meditate, that for me, like, I don't meditate in the traditional way. I don't just go om and have a totally empty mind. I will go and I'll sit outside and I'll just look at the birds. And I'll just, and if a thought comes up, I let myself think it. And so it's just, for me, it's like sitting in stillness. But everybody has a different way of meditating, and that's totally fine. Another thing, if you're having even a moderate issue with psychotronics, there is, I'm told, I haven't used it, but there's something called EMF blocking paint. So you paint your room, paint your bedroom, because that's where you're sleeping in. Paint your bedroom with EMF blocking paint. You might have to paint your floors too, on your ceiling. And so you'll have to see if you can find any of that online. Again, I have never purchased any, but I spoke with a colleague that I've lost touch with, but he knew all about this, and he was talking about even like hanging mesh screens over the insides of your windows, because the EMFs can't pass through the windows. It was really interesting. But he was the one that told me about the EMF blocking paint. Also, if you realize that if you suspect at any certain point that psychotronic technology is actively being used against you, like right then actually smoke can help. And on one of the websites I already told you about, they were talking about getting a smoke machine or whatever. I was like, no, don't get a smoke machine. Burn sage. Burn yourself some sage, you guys. And I know that I say that, like, for clearing out demons, sage just doesn't do it. It's not strong enough. But if you want to raise the vibration and create more negative ions, which is a good thing, in the space, then you want to burn sage or a similar herb. And also, all of the smoke disrupts those frequencies that are trying to get at you. So it's actually healthy. Every source that I've read has said that it's very healthy to breathe in sage smoke. Every body is unique, so some bodies might, some people might not do well with it. Occasionally I run into people who don't do well with the smoke, but most people do, and it's antibacterial. And so when I have sinus infections, I'll actually burn sage and breathe it in. So that can help disrupt some of those energies. Also, in a similar vein, getting a spray bottle and misting the air in the room and in your aura can help. And again, it's similar to how the sage smoke works, in that all the water molecules in the air disrupt the energies that are being blasted at you. And then also, last on the list is sound healing music, as well as binaural beats. I can't say that word. Kinds of music. So I listen to sound healing music all the time. You can go to youtube.com and type in sound healing music, and you'll find like tons and tons of different music. You'll see that some will say clears out negative energy. There's different frequencies that specifically will do different things, that will be healing for DNA, or helping release negative thoughts, or releasing negative energy, or opening your spiritual gifts. And it will usually say in the description what it's good for. So if you want to, you can actually, it's so easy and it's free. You can go on to youtube.com, and if you just for the fun of it, or if you feel like you're under attack, either way, try playing some of that music and see how you feel, and see how the space feels after that. And you'll notice a big difference. You can even play it, like if you're going out, play it in your house, and then come back in afterwards, and it's like your home has received a whole energy clearing. It's pretty cool. So, yeah. So did I talk your ear off? I have no idea what time it is. I don't have a clock with me. So are you guys like, whoa? So if you have any questions, now is the time, because I'm done with all of my lessons here. So type fast and send. I'm going to go over just a couple more things real quick. So those of you who joined late, you know where to find me on my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And you can look at information about my 12-month program. That's the Spiritual Empowerment Academy. And 6:56. All right. Thanks, Jeannie. Perfect. Because I'm actually teaching a class in a little over a half an hour. So perfect timing, because I've got to get that going. So Rose says, fascinating. Yeah, and if you guys think of any questions even later, let me know. This was a really interesting class to prepare for. And thankfully, I have not personally experienced all of the different kinds of attack. But if anybody on here has, and you want to share, either right now or later in the Facebook group, then feel free. And Zahira, you just reminded me, I had actually written down to answer your question about, oh, my nose itches, about gemstones for protecting against, for protection, including with your own devices, like helping keep your own devices clear, so that someone who has negative intentions for you isn't sending you bad vibes through your computer or your Facebook account, because they're lurking and looking at your pictures and stuff. That can happen. So Zahira is asking, does shungite work for that? So shungite is definitely, so actually shungite helps with EMFs, and so you can actually wear a shungite necklace and see if that works for you. You can also get a chunk of shungite and set it on your computer. And my favorite stone for my computer, to set on my computer just to help ground it and keep it clear, is black tourmaline. And so basically, in a nutshell, all of your black stones are going to be good for protection and grounding. There's like black onyx and jet and a whole bunch of other ones. But I really like shungite for protecting against dark energies and EMFs. And I really like black tourmaline for setting on my computer and keeping the computer clear. Those are just my favorites, but every person that I talk to seems to have different favorites, but they tend to be the black gemstones. And those, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole, but you can actually, you could Google gemstones for psychic protection, and you'll find several. Although they'll probably be focusing more on the spiritual aspect. So you could also Google gemstones or crystals that protect against EMFs. And if you word it that way, you're probably likely to find ones that are protecting not only against EMFs, but also possibly various kinds of psychotronic equipment also. So, oh yeah, Tina, I'm glad that you brought this up. Tina says, I like using smoky quartz, black tourmaline, clear crystal. Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned smoky quartz because some of the black stones like shungite and onyx, etc., can be kind of intense. Like if you're really sensitive to energies, some of those black stones can be just a little too intense for some people. And smoky quartz is it's effective for protection and transmuting negative energies, but it's not so intense. Like to me, it's softer, but effective. So thank you for reminding me about that one. And clear crystal, I'm glad that works for you and that works for some people. For protection, however, I'll just point out, just for everybody, that clear crystal quartz tends to magnify energies. So if you're having trouble with negative energies, just know that if you're putting all these clear quartz crystals around you, you might actually be magnifying the energy. Clear crystal quartz, if you're wearing it, it can help clear and balance your energies. But let me give you an example. There was someone who was doing healing work, and they used electronic equipment in their healing work. Like they would hook their client up to this equipment, these computers. And she pulled me into her treatment room and she said, I'm having trouble. I'm getting headaches and there's this weird energy stuff happening, but I'm using all of this protection. I have all this set up for protection. And she had all of these like amazing clear quartz crystals all over. And what it was doing was magnifying the energies of the computers and all of the stuff that she was releasing from her clients. So that's an example. So that's kind of like, so clear quartz crystal is very, very effective. It's wonderful. It's one of my top favorites. But don't just assume that it's like good for everything, right? So sometimes you need something that's going to ground the energies. And I'm glad you had that in your list, Tina. And I'm glad that it works for you. And it also brought it to the top of my mind so that I can explain that to everybody. And again, every single person is different. So what might work really well to help someone sleep might keep someone else awake. And what might be grounding and clearing and protecting for one person might not be. So there's no hard and fast rules about these, but just more like general tendencies. So, okay, last chance for questions, you guys, before I go teach a class. Actually, the class tonight is my Spiritual Empowerment Academy class. So we are going to be working on animal communication and mediumship, which is connecting with loved ones on the other side. That 12-month program is all about developing your spiritual gifts and activating your personal transformation. So it's a really, really fun class. So since I don't see any other comments or questions, we will go ahead and end this. I am sure there will be people watching the replay, so please don't hesitate at all to post any questions for me. And if you have a question, then chances are someone else has the same question. So there are no dumb questions, and please ask anything that comes to mind, and I'm happy to answer for you. All right, you guys, another thing as we end, I haven't thought of what our class is going to be on next month. I do have a list of possibilities, but if you have any requests, you can go ahead and post them in the thread. Just make sure that you tag me because sometimes with these videos, there's so many comments that I can't find your comment unless you tag me. So if you have a request, then go ahead and share it after the video is over, and I will definitely consider it for next month or a future video. Because again, if you're thinking about that topic, chances are other people in the group have the same question. Oh, and I forgot. I don't think I mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but for those of you who are watching this replay on YouTube on the Psychic Protection Sanctuary channel, this Facebook Live is taking place in the free Facebook group Psychic Protection Sanctuary. And I just remembered I did talk about it already, but that's okay. So if you're not on there already, then go ahead and join that so that you can have that interactive experience as well. Everybody have a beautiful evening, and look at how gorgeous it is out here. Oh my God, it's like the most beautiful spring evening. I love living out here. The leaves are not on the trees yet, but they will be soon. And we're going to have a lot more Facebook Lives outside. Yay. Everybody have a great evening. Be blessed and be powerful.